너 왜 꼼짝말고 잠깐 있어?
In the next 11 minutes, I will teach you 12 essential Korean verbs with the help of the movie Train to Busan. Verbs and all the forms that they take on really stressed me out when I was first learning how to speak Korean. I just had no idea how to use all the verbs that I was learning. But I have found that the key to getting these verbs right and actually knowing how to use them is through watching media, like movies, K-dramas, stuff like that. So let me share with you my study secret and how I use movies like Train to Busan to master Korean verbs and all their forms. Be sure to download Fluent U if you want to follow along more in-depth study. You can get 2 weeks of Fluent U free with the link in the description below.
수아, 너 왜 꼼짝말고 잠깐 있어?
말고. This is our first connective form that we are going over today. When you're saying 말고, you're saying not and. This is best explained through examples. So if you say 그런 생각 말고 공부에 집중해, you're saying don't think about something like that. Focus on studying.
수아, 너 왜 꼼짝말고 잠깐 있어? 꼼짝말고 잠깐 있어? 우리 그냥 이것들 달고 부산으로 갑시다.
달고. While 말고 means not and, 달고 means with bringing. So basically it means the same thing as with or bringing in English, making it another connective verb. So, for example, 걔는 항상 동생을 달고 다녀. He or she always goes around with his or her 동생, younger sibling. 달고 is being used as with in the sentence. It acts similarly in Train to Busan as well.
우리 그냥 이것들 달고 부산으로 갑시다. 우리 그냥 이것들 달고 부산으로 갑시다.
If you're liking this video so far, be sure to give it a thumbs up to let us know.
터널 끝나면 들어간다.
끝나면. 끝나면 is another connective verb form, and this means when finished. For example, 뉴스가 끝나면 드라마 시작이야. When the news finishes, the TV show will start. Another example of how this is used is 이번 일이 다 끝나면 맛있는 거 먹으러 가자. When this work is finished, let's go eat something delicious. I would be the one to say that, to be honest. Learning connective verb forms can be very confusing. They were really hard for me to learn at first, but they are so crucial to sounding fluent in Korean because they literally connect sentences together and make you sound more fluid and a lot less robotic. I have found though that the best way to get these connective verbs really set in your mind is through lots of real life examples. One way that you can do this with Fluent U is to look up 면, which is one way to turn verbs into their connective form, and to search through all of the connective verb forms that show up. By doing all of this and seeing all of these examples, it's a lot easier for me to really understand how these connective verb forms work. You can also do the same thing with go. Just type it in and look at all the connective forms and the real-world examples that go along with them. So if you get finished with this video and you're still a bit confused about how to use connective verb forms and all that, you can get the link to use Fluent U for 2 weeks free in the description below. Now, let's move on to some more connective verb forms.
당신들 말이야. 지금 무슨 일이 벌어지고 있는지 몰라?
벌어지고 있는지. This is a very fun verb to say. It just like slides off of your tongue. 벌어지고 있는지. The definition of this is if happening. This is also in the present continuous tense. For example, 북한에서 어떤 일이 벌어지고 있는지 알기 어렵다. 벌어지고 있는지 acts as the word happening in that sentence. Let's look at how it's used in Train to Busan again.
당신들 말이야. 지금 무슨 일이 벌어지고 있는지 몰라? 당신들 말이야. 지금 무슨 일이 벌어지고 있는지 몰라?
In this example, they're literally saying, don't you know what's happening right now? That's how you can use 벌어지고 있는지. 들어올 수 있었잖아. This tongue twister sounding verb means could have come in. But let's talk about 있잖아 for a second. It's kind of hard to describe in English, but a lot of the times it's kind of used as an emphasis. Technically, it means have, but it's putting more of an emphasis on have. For example, 돈 필요하다고? 너 돈 있잖아. With this, I'm emphasizing that that person, they have money. So why on earth are they asking me for money? It just adds a little more depth and exclamation. Now, let's go back to the zombies and Train to Busan again. In this scene, they are emphasizing that everybody could have come in, almost asking why it didn't happen. 출발합니다. This is important to know if you're traveling anywhere in South Korea. 출발합니다 means to start or leave. Fluent U also shows us that this is the formal way to say this. So you'll hear this a lot when you're on a train or a bus or something like that when the conductor says it's departing, just like how it's used in Train to Busan.
팀장님, 여기 11호차 응급 환자 발생했습니다.
발생했습니다. This means that something happened or broke out. And again, it's in polite, formal Korean. So if there was an accident somewhere and you're hearing about it on the news, they'll probably use 발생했습니다 to say that it happened, it broke out somewhere. Like, for example, 홍대에서 사고가 발생했습니다. Or like the example used in Train to Busan.
팀장님, 여기 11호차 응급 환자 발생했습니다. 팀장님, 여기 11호차 응급 환자 발생했습니다.
몰라. This phrase is used all the time, especially if you consider yourself clueless a lot. Me. Simply speaking, 몰라 means to not know or not understand.
몰라, 다 모르겠어.
However, when it's used in Train to Busan, it's used as a question and the meaning is do not know. For example, 너 내가 누군지 몰라? It's more like do you not know? Or don't you know? I love this usage of 몰라. It just is so sassy.
당신들 말이야. 지금 무슨 일이 벌어지고 있는지 몰라? 당신들 말이야. 지금 무슨 일이 벌어지고 있는지 몰라?
You'll actually use 몰라 this way when you really don't understand why someone doesn't know this certain thing. Kind of when you're surprised and you're like, wait, don't you know this? And it's usually used in a more negative light. Maga. Maga is very simple and means block in Korean. It's in the imperative form because it's being used as a command. You can tell by how it's used in Train to Busan. So if you ever need to ask somebody to block a door because some zombie apocalypse is happening and zombies are coming for you, now you know the verb to use that very well may save your life. 올라가. This is another very intense sounding verb. But what can you expect when we're literally using a zombie movie to teach Korean? You're basically commanding someone to go up with this phrase. It's used so quickly in this movie that it almost doesn't even sound like 올라가. But that's what's so great about using media and movies to learn a language. You're gonna hear not like the little textbook dictionary version, but the actual way it sounds when people are saying it.
몇 톡한?
빨리 와. Here is our third imperative of the day. 빨리 와 means hurry. 와 is the imperative form of to come, and 빨리 means quickly. So if you put them together, you get 빨리 와, which means hurry. This, again, is usually spoken very quickly, especially if it's in a zombie movie or survival movie like Train to Busan, where your life kind of depends on it. If you want to review everything that I talked about in this video, I have a little surprise for you. I have a free Fluent U PDF in the description below with everything that I discussed in this video. You can grab it with the link in the description below. And if you enjoyed this video, I think you're going to love this video that I have for you right over there. It's about how to use Netflix to learn Korean, because it's actually pretty effective. I'll see you guys over there.